Send this video to a bully. Hey, if you've been bullying my friend, here's a little fun fact. You might immediately want to stop. Yes, I punch metal for fun and I do not give an absolute damn. I might be the baddest mother fluffer on this entire planet. I even have scars on my pinky.
TBTL.
Guess what day it is? Guess what day it is?
It's Friday. Gonna get down on Friday.
Everybody's looking forward to the weekend.
Did you ever run into a musical group, works out of Kansas City, calls themselves Four Jackson and Jill? They've been at a Ramada Inn there for about 18 months. If you're ever in Kansas City and you want to hear some good music, you might want to drop by.
I'm not trying to be disrespectful or anything, but I kind of feel like you're winging this and it's going bad.
Do I look like I know what a JPEG is? I just want a picture of a goddamn hot dog.
What kind of disco dancing nonsense is going on here?
All right, hello, good morning, and welcome everyone to a Friday edition of TBTL, the show that just might be too beautiful to live.
That's the voice of the youth of America.
My name's Luke Burbank. I'm your host.
Wait a minute. I read a tweet about a New Yorker article about you.
Coming to you from Chicago, Illinois, and the shores of Lake Michigan. Looking out on the Shed Aquarium, Soldier Field. Yesterday, I was also coming to you from Chicago, Illinois, but I was oriented in a different direction because I was in a different hotel room in this hotel. But then being the all-time nudge that I am, I nudged them, and they moved us to a different room. And my goodness, I have never been more glad to be a nudge because we're on a corner unit. There's just views for days. We're able to hear the warm-up act at the, I think it's the, is it Suerte Music Festival here in Chicago in Grant Park. Somebody was warming up with, it's Sueños, the Sueños Music Festival. Somebody was warming up with a cover of Sex and Candy by Marcy Park. Is that the name of the band? Marcy Playground? Marcy McDonald's Playland. Anyway, it's quite a day here in Chicago and quite an episode coming your way. It's episode 4,733 in a collector's series.
Now you have a friend in the diamond business.
I'm realizing how helpful it is to have Becca here in the room, just fact-checking me, backstopping me, reminding me that the band is called Marcy Playground. They're not playing the festival. This is an important clarification. They're not part of the Sueños Festival. That's more like a J Balvin game, right? That's more like a Caliucha. But there's somebody was just for some reason playing that song, and we jogged past the stage when someone was sound checking, and now that lives in my head for the rest of time. Anyway, other important media stories today. Well, last night was the final episode of The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. CBS says they had to cancel the show because of financial considerations.
Well, we know you're good at lying.
That remains a pretty questionable explanation for things. We'll talk about what all happened at the Ed Sullivan Theater last night. Speaking of lying, the Cars for Kids folks are in some trouble in California for not giving the money from the cars to the right kids, according to California officials. So we may discuss that, time permitting. We'll definitely say hello to this guy, longest-running Cobra of the show, maybe best known for his depictions of the tall ships. People always ask me, like, what do you talk about 5 days a week? And I say, rarely the news, because this is this guy's news-gathering approach each morning.
I don't read the newspaper. I don't watch news on television unless there's a cat involved.
He's Andrew Walsh, and he's joining me right now. Good morning, my friend.
Who's that casting devious stares in my direction? Mama.
Marcy Water Park.
This surely is a dream. That
by
song,
the way,
that song
kind
will
of a
be
banger.
Yes. That reminds me of a very, very specific, not just time of my life, but sort of a very specific activity in my life. Now, that song, is it just called Sex and Candy? Yes, Sex and Candy by Marcy Playground, was ubiquitous on the radio during, I'm going to say, the late 90s. And it kind of had crossover. Like, a lot of us were just, like, locking it on whatever 107.9 The End type of alternative rock station at that time. But even in that time frame, people were saying, I don't know, is it really alternative when these are the most popular songs of the day? But songs like that also would cross over to the, like, quasi-classic rock or just rock and roll station. It was just getting constant
You're talking
play.
about your Fastball The Way.
Is that a
songs
radio
like
station
that.
around here?
Where were they
Oh.
going without ever knowing the way? That was another song that was a little bit like the Marcy Playground song, where it was like considered alternative music, but then you'd start to hear it on the pop stations because it was undeniably catchy stuff.
Yeah, but then also like kind of you could also mix that in with a little bit of Black Crowes as well on like the rock and roll station. So anyway, my point is that Marcy Playground song, I did not like it. Now I don't even know how I would feel about it, but at the time I remember not liking it, but also not being able to escape it. And very specifically, I feel like I heard it every day on my way to and on my way back from my job at the fiberglass factory. Maybe that's why I don't like it that much. Maybe because it reminds me of
associated with
grinding
picking
fiberglass
pieces of
into
fiberglass out of the inner parts of your ear
and
years
eyes.
and months later.
Yes, exactly. I actually did not hate that job, but it was a very specific time. It was a very specific smell. It was a very clean factory I worked in, but you just had the smell of like plastic and fiberglass and glue, and I would wear the same work clothes. You know, I had dedicated work clothes to take to that job, and I had this plastic purple mug, like a thermal mug that I got at. I don't feel like we had AM PMs there, but it might have been an AM PM mug or some sort of like a on the go. You could fill it with your cola of choice, or you could fill it as I usually did, probably with coffee or something. And I remember I always had that in my minivan on the way to, what was it called? Omega Pultrusions, the fiberglass factory, where I would listen to Marcy Playground.
Was the severance process painful? Or did they give you a general for that?
I can say this honestly, I don't remember.
That really sounds like the name of an adjacent building in Severance. Right next to Lumen, there's Omega Protrusions. What?
Yeah, I'm
How do you
trying to
say that
remember
second
what it
word?
was. I believe it was Pultrusions, and this is where my Ohio accent probably doesn't help all that much either. Omega Pultrusions. I went on a little memory lane the last time I was visiting my folks. And my folks live in the suburbs of Cleveland, and this is outside of Kent, where I went to college. So it's like an hour ride, maybe hour 15, I don't know. And but when I'm visiting my folks, we don't have a lot to do, so sometimes we just go on drives and then get lunch or whatever. So I had them drive me to Kent, Ohio, to just relive some memories, and not really relive them. I didn't do shots with my parents at Ray's place. But anyway, the town of Kent had changed a lot. But then on the way home, I'm like, what if we just kept going straight down this road and we go down there to Aurora, Ohio, where I used to work at Omega? I just want to see the building again, how much it matches my memory. And my memory is just, it was just a factory on this long stretch of road with factories. Like it was just kind of a rural area. It's not like a specifically like congested factory area, but just spread out, just generic warehouses and factories. And as I was, and it did look, I guess as much as I remembered it, about the same, just huge parking lots, big square buildings. But I think I was Googling it on my phone then too, because I was like, oh yeah, this is Aurora, Ohio. And I look it up, and that is where, and this is one of the more depressing things I learned, is there used to be a SeaWorld there. And when you look at Aurora, Ohio, and you think they put a SeaWorld here, you understand the movie Blackfish all the more. Do I have that right? Blackfish? Whatever that documentary was.
Yes.
Like, you're just like, a goldfish shouldn't live in this part of Ohio. No offense to Ohio or the factory district of Aurora. But like, this is a place that sucks life out of beings. You don't bring sea creatures to this landlocked factory warehouse.
You don't thumb your nose at God that way.
Exactly.
Because that's how you get Donald Trump.
Yeah, right.
It's a direct, and from A to B, there's a direct line between putting a SeaWorld into Aurora, Ohio, and God punishing us.
Oh, my God. Look, do me a favor.
President.
If you have working internet there, and by the way, our line sounds great today, so I'm guessing you can do this. Just type in Aurora, Ohio, SeaWorld, and you will see, I believe, photos of what it looks like now, just like you can get a sense of what this area was like. Now, what I'm seeing here is...
Now, I'm looking at, Geauga Lake.
Yeah,
now, that's
Geauga
not...
Lake.
Why is that coming up when I'm doing
wait
this
a
search?
second. Hold on. Am I wrong? Was there a Geauga Lake there? No, SeaWorld, Ohio.
No. Aurora's proposed a purchase of Old SeaWorld includes Geauga Lake. So this
okay,
is all,
I see.
So
they purchased Geauga Lake.
It was It was located. It looks like the SeaWorld was located on the shores of Geauga Lake.
Doesn't that seem though like these photos look like a scene out of This Is Us, The Last of Us? I don't know what scenes out of This
And by the way,
Is Us
I think I'm wrong about that. I think it was actually more inland. I think I'm just looking at some Geauga Lake stuff because if it were actually on the shores of Geauga Lake, that would kind of be like, well, it's near a larger body of water. This is less depressing. But I am guessing that they made sure to really snug it in, really inland, really landlocked, really surrounded by impervious surfaces, just to drive home the kind of unnatural nature of its location.
Yeah, and Geauga Lake is just a small. It's not like, we're talking about the area of the Great Lakes, like Lake Erie or whatever.
Yeah.
Geauga Lake is a small little lake that I don't even know what its origins are, to be completely honest with you. So it is depressing.
I'm looking at this looks like a Polaroid, although maybe it just might be stylized to look like a Polaroid, if that makes any sense. But it looks exactly like with the the little kind of white outline with the photograph in the middle, and then what looks like sort of handwriting. It says Shamu, SeaWorld, Aurora, Ohio, July 1978. Is it possible the Great Shamu was at Shamu was kind of the like OG so-called killer whale.
Shamu
that
and
was
Bamu,
in captivity.
right?
Oh, I didn't know about Bamu.
I thought it was Shamu and Bamu, but Shamu obviously got top billing, but that was my understanding.
So you know this. So in other words, this SeaWorld in Aurora, Ohio that you're speaking of, this is where Shamu lived, the Great Shamu?
Well, or is it darker than that? Did they move this poor whale around? I mean, is that possible? I sound like an idiot now, but like, I don't know.
Did they take the whale out on tour?
Let's see here. Shamu's the famous, or were there more than one Shamu? That's probably that's really
like
the question
Gallagher.
we should be at.
Shamu 2.
Bamu had the exact same hairline. Oh, wait, no, I'm wrong, though. It's not even Bamu, it's Namu. Shamu is a famous stage name for the original performing orca at SeaWorld, while Namu sometimes humorously mashed up or remembered by fans as Bamu. At least I didn't totally make that up. Oh, wait a second. This is AI overview probably trying to make my search term work. God, you cannot trust them at all.
Do not praise the machines. I blame them for canceling Colbert, by the way.
Shamu was the stage name for several performing orcas at SeaWorld. There you go.
So there you go. I mean, and you're absolutely right. Why am I so literal sometimes? Like, there's this picture of a killer whale jumping out of the water, and it's Shamu, and I'm like, it never occurred to me they could just call any old orca Shamu.
Yeah,
we're not going to know the difference. Of course, that's what they're going to do. I'm like thinking, like, well, it must have been the logistics of getting Shamu to Aurora, Ohio must have been like, no, just call the other whale
just
Shamu.
Call them all
no one's going to know.
Or Care, the first baby. Is that what maybe I'm thinking of baby Shamu? Do people call him the baby Bamu?
Please don't say the words baby Shamu.
Please stop saying Bamu.
I just mean it's just like so depressing on so many levels, and the idea of it being a baby orca in that situation. My goodness gracious.
Okay. Good work.
Well,
good work by me there.
From that slightly depressing topic to another, I don't know, kind of depressing topic, or at least a bit of a bummer, which is that last night was the final Colbert episode. I did not get to watch it in real time because I was doing Wait, Don't Tell Me, but I did spend this morning trying to catch up on as much of it as I could, so I watched his monologue. I think, like you, Andrew, I was searching it for something that might be kind of TBTLable today. Like maybe we could use his intro tape. And I mean, I thought it was pretty good. It didn't seem to lend itself to that, but in the journey of trying to find some tape, I watched the monologue. I watched his musical performance with John Baptiste and his other, I forget the name of the current leader of his band, and then Elvis Costello. They did a Elvis Costello song, and then they did a Hello Goodbye with Paul McCartney. That was literally the end of the show. There was this subplot running through it of a kind of sort of a tear in the fabric of the universe that was calling Stephen Colbert to go towards it. And it was kind of evidenced by this green flashing light and sound that kept popping up throughout the episode. Were you tracking any of that?
No. So here's my experience with this, just so you know. Okay. I didn't really think I was going to watch it at all because as much as I love him, I didn't really watch that show, and also the timing wasn't going to work out for me. But I had a friend who was very interested in trying to watch it, not just the West Coast feed, but actually kind of watch it live as it aired on the East Coast. And he was having some troubles, and so I had a little life hack it
Turn
buddy.
to the master of content.
Yes, and so I had a feeling that I'd be able to find a stream of WCBS New York, which would be like just the CBS station there on the East Coast. And I was able to find that, and so I sent it to him earlier in the day, and then we were just getting back from puppy kindergarten, Luke, which, by the way, we're changing puppy kindergarten classes because Lucy she's not graduating up. She's just so huge that she doesn't belong with these small dogs anymore. So apparently there's a class for larger puppies of the same age, and so we're gonna have to, because it's getting crazy.
We don't call them large, we call them big milk-boned.
I will not write that down. But so it was getting a little bit weird how big she was, and they all have a lot of energy, but when you have little fluff balls that you can hold in your hand running around and playing, that's one thing. But when you have this giant beast amongst them, it was getting weird. But all of that is to say, Genevieve and I we had just gotten back home, unloaded Lucy, and we're just like, and I was just like, oh, I wonder if that link I sent to my buddy worked. And so I clicked on it, and I didn't even clock what time it was, but there it was. I literally hit go on it as the music was playing to introduce him. And I was like, oh my God, I guess I'll watch the monologue. It seemed like fate. But I was just on my phone. So I just sort of like watched the monologue on my phone. I thought it was kind of funny, but I did not get to the part where there was some sort of tear in the fabric. The ongoing bit that I saw during the monologue was the famous people who were planted in the audience kept standing up saying that they assumed that they were going to be Colbert's last guest. And he kept letting them down, like Bryan Cranston was the first one, and Tim Meadows and Paul Rudd, I think. That was the only kind of ongoing joke I saw. So I'm guessing that either I missed it or they started this other joke after that.
The other joke started popping up later in the show where I think their premise was, we're going to try to basically do a regular episode of the program, but then we're going to keep getting interrupted by the fact that it's the last show, and again, these sort of celebrity cameos, etc. And so they kept doing kind of some of their normal bits. Like he has a bit called Meanwhile, and he starts doing that, and then he's getting like there's like this kind of green flash of light, and then a weird sound. And then over time, it keeps coming back, and he finally like looks under the desk. He goes to a commercial break, which is kind of a fake out because he walks off stage, but they're still filming it. This is now a video package. And basically this kind of quark or whatever, this green tear in the space-time continuum is kind of, I think, well, first of all, somehow the other Strike Force 5 guys are all showing up, which is the other, kind of late-night hosts that he's friends with, and they're talking about, like, the fact that, like, essentially time is moving on and the nature of doing one of these talk shows is changing. And it's not, it's not 20 years ago, and what people want to watch and how they want to consume it is different. And this sort of green tear in the fabric of time is kind of representing that change in viewing habits and just the world. And so he's sort of trying to fight it throughout the show. Eventually, it ends up swallowing up the entire show. And I don't think I'm spoiling anything because it's not a murder mystery, but the very end of the literal end of the show it's Paul McCartney and Stephen Colbert in the supposed basement of the Ed Sullivan Theater. By the way, the Paul McCartney thing was pretty full circle because, of course, the Beatles played on Ed Sullivan those years ago. Yeah. So the idea that Paul McCartney was kind of playing on that stage as a Beatle on the Ed Sullivan Show and is now kind of turning out the lights on the last meaningful show that will be created in that television studio was kind of, I have to say, it did have a certain kind of bookend effect, Can
I ask you a question about that? And I'm sorry that I don't know. I should just know this, but so it is just, obviously the Tonight Show's going away, but
this is the Late Show.
I'm sorry, the Late Show.
The Tonight Show is the Fallon one.
I knew I was going to do that. I can't keep them straight. That's why I shouldn't be allowed to even talk about this topic. I should be banned from talking basketball. But I understand that this is, the legacy of not just the show itself and the brand itself, but this particular stage and this particular theater. And I've, kind of just heard that assumption that like, oh yeah, the lights are going down on the theater itself. But like, well, then what is going to happen to this real estate?
I don't know the answer to that, but if if I had to guess, I would say nothing good from
Yeah.
CBS
Yeah.
based on my experience. You know, I don't think. I mean, well, I'm trying to think of other. I don't know enough. I mean, I've been in that theater. I've watched Colbert tape live, and I weirdly interviewed Depeche Mode backstage at that theater. So I've kind of been in there a bit. I don't remember what else, if anything, is being made there that is a CBS
Will
production. There's
Byron
something-
Allen be producing a show out of there?
I'm guessing Byron Allen is using a soundstage somewhere in Tahunga
Right, they
to unleash the comics.
They clean up the porn set, and then
Yep,
Byron
it's
Allen
out
show
there
begins.
somewhere in Chatsworth. Byron Allen is renting an Airbnb right after a porn shoot, and he's going to bring in the comics to unleash them. I would be really surprised if that show, if his show was going to be produced at this really cool facility in Midtown Manhattan that's very expensive to run. So yeah, I don't know what, if anything, is going to be made there. I mean, CBS is getting out of the business of making shows like this. So my guess is they'll sell they will sell or lease the real estate to somebody else for some other purpose. But yeah, I mean, it's a pretty legendary, this whole like kind of swan song for Colbert has been kind of interesting to me because, you know, he had Letterman on, they threw things off the roof. Like, it's almost given me nostalgia, not even for Colbert, but for before Colbert. Like, you know what I mean?
It's the
like
end of
for
an era,
when-
to quote our friend Durs.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think that's what has me feeling kind of wistful about it, is because I was never a daily, nightly watcher of Colbert. I would see the clips that would pop up. Like everybody who has a brain in their head, I recognize that he's comedically very talented and by all accounts just a wonderful person. So I'm sad to see him go, but I'm really just sad to sort of see the format go away, because really all this nostalgia has reminded me of when I was a kid in like high school, and like I went to my friend Joe Dolan's house. I've told this story many times, but when David Letterman moved from NBC to CBS, I don't know if this just makes me like a TV nerd about this kind of thing. I went to my friend Joe Dolan's house. They didn't have, for some reason, like a TV in their living room. I remember I think we were in his parents' bedroom, sitting on the floor of his parents' bedroom, watching David Letterman premiere on CBS. Like that was like a television event in my like freshman mind or whatever, and like.
Wait a second, Letterman, freshman? No way, that would be when. Oh, like a transition to the.
Well, because Letterman started out on NBC, and he was on after The Tonight Show.
Okay,
and then the whole thing was he wanted The Tonight Show.
Yes.
They gave it to Leno. That was the Late Night Wars.
Of
And then
course.
CBS created a time slot for Letterman, I believe, at 12:30. So he went to CBS. And I'm going to guess, you could actually Google that, like when did David Letterman start at CBS?
Yeah, no,
But I'm going to peg it around
that
early
makes
90s.
sense. I just kind of got lost in the story a little bit, and I was picturing like the early '80s Letterman throwing things off. Okay, yeah,
right.
I'm
The
with
like
you, yeah.
craziness on late night on NBC.
Yeah.
But just like there was something about David Letterman and Stephen Colbert on the roof of the Ed Sullivan Theater throwing office furniture off of it that just made me so wistful for, I mean, really a time in my life when that was just going on every night, and I would watch it a lot of the nights, and like, I don't know, the thing is, time marches on, everything changes, the very fact of the David Letterman show was itself a change from whatever had been happening before it, and there was a time when there were no late night shows, there was a time when there was no television, like, everything changes and moves on, and it's like, I understand that, and I know that that's just how life works. I guess what I'm kind of bummed about, I was also reading a bunch of think pieces about this today, including one in the New York Times talking about the comparison between the network late night shows and the stuff that's popping up on, let's say, YouTube. Because the talk show format is not going away. It's just coming up in different ways now. And it's coming up on, there's a show called The Adam Freeland Show, which a lot of people watch on YouTube. Brittany Broski has a program. There's a lot of these shows that are often aimed at younger people and are a little more kind of intentionally DIY. Although I'll tell you, there is now a lot of money to be made doing these shows if they have a lot of viewers. And I was telling myself, well, yeah, it just means more creativity. It just means more. You don't have to be Stephen Colbert now. You don't have to be a white man of a certain age to be possibly handed the reins to this big franchise. And that's obviously a good thing. But you know what I miss? I miss all of us kind of knowing about the same thing. Like we've just moved into a media world where there's so much good stuff to watch and listen to. it's not like we're lacking for content. It's just that like we're never going to all be watching the same content again, other than maybe the Super Bowl. Like just that era is over, and I kind of missed it. I missed the days when if something like Drew Barrymore jumped up on the desk on Letterman, everybody was talking about it the next day. Like, and maybe that's just my age and my generation, and maybe that's not something people care about. But like, that's what I think I'm going to miss about this. It's not that we're not going to have content. It's not. I mean, this kid that we started the show with, what's his? Let me see if I can find his TikTok handle. He's just this, he's this guy. I sent you his. You want me
to jump in? It's YB Lowell is what he goes on TikTok. WYBIELOLLL.
And like, you can't have a better example of what I'm talking about. Not that this kid is hosting a talk show. He's just in his house, in his kitchen, making little funny videos that have been cracking me up.
Wait, you thought that was funny? I thought that was like I was going to play this for my bully.
Send this video
It's an anti-bullying message.
Hey, if you've been bullying my friend, here's a little fun fact.
It's not funny.
You might immediately want to stop. Yes, I punch metal for fun, and I do not give an absolute damn. I might be the baddest mother fluffer on this entire planet. I even have scars on my pinky.
See, I'm not laughing, Luke.
I do not give an absolute damn.
First of all, that is rough language. That is rough language from that guy. But I am sending that to my bullies. You're gonna get that. You're gonna get that video in your inbox.
I even have a scar on my pinky. Like the pros are this kid YB Lol. He doesn't have to be David Brenner getting called over to the couch on Carson. Like the star making system, the machinery of content and how we used to watch it and who used to get to make it has been completely busted open. And the upside of that is that I see this kid on TikTok who is making me laugh this week. The bummer of it is that I have to definitely send that to you or just walk around with my phone showing it to everyone and anyone I meet if they want to share the experience with me about YB Lol, because there is no, kind of like shared experience around these niche things and these funny things, which is a trade-off, I guess. It was just kind of comforting to me when something was happening and there were, and I don't know when these stopped happening. Maybe it never even was a thing, but the so-called water cooler moment, the thing that you were kind of talking about with other people and we all were kind of on the same page. I liked that. It made me feel connected to people, and that's just not how the media is going to work anymore. And the end of Colbert feels like the end of that for me.
Yeah, and of course for me it always goes to a dark place because I'm trying to think of examples. I'm like, well, you're right. I'm not trying to just argue with you, but I'm trying to think like, but what are some examples in our culture today that would come close to that? And you already mentioned the Super Bowl. That would come close, I mean, to the old phenomenon of us all sort of drinking from the same well of kind of pop culture. And I think you're right. Like the Super Bowl might be one. Like you could almost talk to anybody about Bad Bunny, but it would be such an unpleasant conversation with so many people. You know what I mean? Like it's also like so polarized, and it's not even just like, oh, the Super Bowl is and the surrounding hoopla is like a focus that has taken over kind of the attention of the nation. Like you can actually make that argument like you did. But then it's like, yeah, but the way people are getting that information is so different, and the perspective on that information is so different. Like, yeah. I had a real...
You're bringing up a very dark counter-argument, which is we shouldn't be watching the same stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
We're
that's not what
going
I'm trying
to agree.
Say. Yeah, but I mean, that's the sort of the difference, too. Even the moments that maybe we are all talking about, we're getting... It's being presented to us, and of course, politics would be the huge part of that, and then all the just like the kind of culture war stuff is being presented to us in such vastly different ways, and we're all choosing the way we experience that information or that phenomenon or whatever it is.
I think you're right. I mean, I think you're accurately describing modern life, and I think I'm nostalgically describing past life.
Yeah, no, I'm not trying to. No, I'm not arguing with you. I was just like thinking, like, yeah, but I almost was thinking about it like kind of circles of influence. Like as you were talking, I was sort of like picturing it. It's like, okay, back in the day, everybody always talks about this, and I hate to sound cliche, but you had like the 3 networks, right? And and because of all of that, like, I guess the Beatles on Ed Sullivan would be the perfect example, which predates us by quite a bit, right? But that
my
would just
mom
be...
to this day talks about watching that with her sisters on the in the basement on Ripley Street in Philadelphia, and my granddad Jack standing in the background, not understanding what these long hairs were all about.
I love the fact that dads always stood in the background watching the TV
In the
over
ferry,
your shoulder.
they actually find cave paintings of this. It's,
Of a dad.
Grog standing in the back as the kids
Watch
are looking
fire.
at the cave fire.
Yeah, exactly.
This fire seemed fresh.
Exactly. Arms crossed.
Grog unsure about
You're
this fire.
absolutely right. Anyway.
Freebie, that's a freebie, Gary Larson.
That is really good. But anyway, you know what I mean? So, like, let's say the Beatles and Ed Sullivan, that's just like one giant circle, right? But then maybe as time marches on, you're kind of like, well, you still had, like in the 90s when you and I were growing up, you had, like, let's say 4 or 5 or 6 big circles. MTV would be a pretty big circle by that point, as well as the 3 networks and the Letterman of it all, and maybe the Leno of it or whatever. But then you also, like during that time, I'm saying, but you also had the small little circles that people like us are always seeking out, right? Like the Pixies mixtapes we're making for each other, or Violent Femmes, or whatever like the niche little thing was. And like in a certain way, I think our generation and people like us were looking for the small circles, like the small little. The reason we're drawn to this is because it isn't the mainstream, and so it feels like our little protected little passion, you know, which I love, and that's probably been around forever too. But now you're right; it's almost like all the little bubbles are getting smaller and smaller and bubbling up like a glass of champagne.
They're tiny. In the words of Don Ho,
Yes.
they are tiny bubbles. We're one of them, by the way.
Yeah.
We're one of the tiniest of the bubbles. But, like, I mean, yeah, it's like I can imagine TBTL listeners who enjoy this show and listen to it on the daily trying to then explain it to someone else, and just knowing that there's just no chance that if you bump, there's an almost 0% chance if you bump into someone on the street that you'll be able to say, "Did you catch that TBTL the other day?" And the answer is going to be yes, and they've got thoughts. Like, we don't live in that world anymore. And again, I'm trying to kind of, and I even think Colbert was kind of trying to do this. Oh, by the way, the end of the show is finally this, whatever exactly it is. I mean, it was a fairly surreal, it was a very Colbert show. I think it might have been James Ponowitz in the Times pointing this out, that like at his core, we sometimes forget because he's been so sort of respectable for so long, but Stephen Colbert's comedy is absurdist. You know, if you go back to Strangers with Candy and things like that, like that's his real kind of foundational comedic, approach. And this episode kind of had that. It was just you could tell it was just what Colbert kind of wanted to do, because he was like, well, what else is going to happen? It's my show. There was a moment, this was actually, I thought, very funny, where he was doing one of these news stories, not in his monologue, but a little later. And the story was about how the Peanuts estate is suing people constantly from using the music without permission.
Okay.
And as he's reading it, the band starts playing a Peanut song. And he's like, wait a minute. Are you playing a Peanut song? This as they continue to play. I sure hope CBS doesn't get sued over this.
That's great.
It was a pretty good bit. But like eventually this green kind of thing of progress, you might call it, of changing interests and consumer habits, etc. When Paul McCartney and Stephen Colbert throw the switch on it, the Ed Sullivan Theater, first of all, goes dark. This is from the outside. And then is sort of like almost like the Big Crunch. It's reduced down to nothing in this green light orb, and then it's a little miniature version of the building inside a snow globe.
Inside a snow globe.
Which is kind of Citizen Kane. It's kind of the Bob Newhart show.
Yeah.
And then you see this, his dog walk. Cole, you just see it's actually a great shot. It's a tight shot of the snow globe, and then like a dog's nose sniffing it. And then Colbert says, come on, I forget the name of the dog, Birdie or something. Come on, Birdie, let's go. And they just walk off. That's the show. That's it.
That's really sad. Where's he walking? Like, what's the scene? New York City somewhere? Or
Well, you can't even tell, because what happens is the building is reduced down to a building inside of a snow globe. Now we're on a tight shot of the snow globe, presumably sitting on the street in Manhattan.
Oh, okay.
And then we just see a dog's nose. We know it's Colbert's dog, like sniff the snow globe.
Okay.
And then maybe some shoes, and they just keep moving.
They never
That's
pull
the
out.
shot.
Okay, gotcha.
They never pull out.
So let me ask you this about the guests. So you mentioned that the kind of the last hurrah, like sort of in the show itself, is Paul McCartney playing. And,
Yeah.
and what's the symbolic song that you mentioned before and I forgot already?
Well, he did an Elvis Costello song called "Jump Up," which I'm honestly not familiar with.
Yeah, off the top of
but
my
that was
head,
also
I don't
very
know.
Colbert. You could tell that Colbert just loves this song. So and it was actually, I thought it was a very charming presentation of the song. It's like I said, it was Elvis Costello, it's Stephen Colbert, it's John Baptiste, and it's, again, I apologize that I don't know his name, but it's the guy who's been the band leader for all the years that it hasn't been John Baptiste. And they're sitting in a circle, and it's very stripped down. It's Elvis Costello on guitar, it's John Baptiste on piano, and it's the other guy on guitar, and then Colbert's just sitting in a chair. They're all sitting in chairs with mics, and they're just having a sing-along, the four of them. And it's a cool song that I actually am kind of gonna like go look up now. But anyway, it goes from that into, it's like it goes dark again. They were kind of jumping in and out of like video production in real time, and like, so then it goes from that scene, which was on tape, to something else happened that I'm forgetting at the moment, and which was giving basically time, I guess, to get everybody on stage and assembled. And all of a sudden, the lights go up on stage. This is now live, and it's Paul McCartney, who had been the final guest and the only guest, really.
Okay, so
the only
that's what I
sit-down
was
guest
kind of
of the
getting at. I
episode
wanted to
was
know
McCartney.
kind of literally who was the last guest, and
McCartney.
that's what I was getting at. So it was McCartney. Okay, that's interesting.
And then they do "You Say Goodbye, I Say Hello,"
Oh, yeah.
which is also pretty damn on brand, on point, relevant, kind of the perfect song there. And then actually it was really sweet because as they get midway through the song, the entire staff of the show floods through the aisles up onto stage, and there's up in the catwalk and the balcony, and there's, probably takes 300-400 people to put this show on, and they're all on stage just dancing. Colbert's family is out there. It's just a joyous kind of beautiful thing. And then that's when they cut back to video of McCartney and Colbert turning the power off on the whole operation. And
Interesting.
It sort of goes away, and then that was the thing. That was it. So,
wow, that makes me. That actually makes you describe. I didn't even watch the final episode, and that makes me emotional. You describing that.
It was. I also felt like there was woven into it, maybe because Colbert was not pouting, but he was smiling throughout, and he was appreciative, and that's kind of been his general stance.
Yeah.
Throughout was like, and also this idea of this green force of I guess we'll call it progress. We'll call it change. It's inevitable. And his question of whether or not to jump through it, whether or not to embrace it, can you fight it? Like, I kind of felt like what he was saying was like, this is not the end. And of course, the song, you say goodbye, I say hello. Like, I kind of felt like there was a wink and a nod here of Colbert kind of saying like, look, this is not the end of entertainment. This is not the end of me making things. This is not the end of things that are good in our world. Things are changing, and that's going to happen for all of us. But it felt to me like somehow ultimately like more positive than maudlin. I don't know. Maybe I just choose to.
No,
that's how I choose to read it.
He stated that at the beginning. He said this is going to be a joyous show. I don't know if he said joyous, but he said we're going to try to he said we're going to try to keep the normal format. So even though it was punctuated by these celebrity cameos that were very meta in nature, like he was just doing headlines in the monologue, and
which, by the way, were pretty flat.
Do.
I was shocked at the jokes they picked. I actually thought the actual monologue was like, it was maybe the audience was just kind of didn't know how to feel about the show being a regular show, but I was a little surprised at the jokes they picked.
It was a little anticlimactic, I got to say.
I was
hoping
flat.
for a I mean, I guess I laughed, and again, keep in mind, I'm literally watching this on my phone as I'm sort of walking around the house, like doing things. But I did.
It's the ideal experience.
Yeah,
By the way, you're part of the problem. I hope you're happy.
No, as I watch an illegal stream of it,
pirate the content on your phone.
Via Canada, by the way. But I think that's where the servers are. But all of that is to say, like, I guess I did sort of laugh when he was talking about the I don't know, the small s scandal involving the Catholic Church with the hunky priest calendar, and it turns out they weren't actually priests or something like that. And he just said,
were actors.
And he just said, this is the biggest scandal the Catholic Church has ever faced. I got to say, he's a Catholic. Me growing up Catholic, that did make me laugh. But you're right, though. But just very standard fare. But I don't think you're reading too much into it. I think that's what he wanted, and that's the one thing that's a little bit hard for me. And Colbert, it's Colbert's show, it's Colbert's life, it's Colbert's experience. This is not a criticism, what I'm saying. I'm glad he got to say goodbye the way he wanted to say goodbye, given the circumstances. Having said that, we live in such a scary age where I want people who are more famous and more articulate than me to speak truth to power as much as possible, because we are lacking that, and I feel like we are absolutely drowning in authoritarianism and authors and lies and all of this. And when you have, it's like Stephen Colbert, because he is so likable, so unbelievably smart, so not just quick-witted, but just witty, and he's like the perfect like ninja sword who can just cut like so cleanly to the heart of the issues of the day. You kind of hope that you would love to see him not like leave a burnt ground behind him, but at least take advantage of this stage one more time where there won't be a lot of repercussions for him. They've already done the worst from that network level. Like, just one absolutely killer thing to say or do that undermines what is going on and highlights what is going on, because this wasn't just about money. Although, as you said, 400 people streamed to the stage. It's also an expensive show to put on. Yeah. But also, it is happening in this context of what's going on with CBS and how that is connected to what's going on in this country and all of the awful stew that we're living in. Part of me is kind of like, use your... I guess that's why they call it, literally, I was going to say rapier wit, right? Isn't rapier a sword? Am I right about that? Like, literally, that's what, use the sword. You are the sword, Stephen Colbert. Just cut out the heart and let's watch it beat one last time.
See, I totally understand that impulse, because it feels like there are so few opportunities to really, in a meaningful way, speak to this administration, and to kind of like, I don't know, get the upper hand in terms of the messaging, or they've just consolidated so much power, and they just like take out anyone who opposes them. And you're right, in a way, it would be so great to see Colbert pull that rapier out of the stone like Arthur, and then use it to great effect. But I guess for me, there's also something about, and in fact, he called the show a joy machine. So he came back after the break, and this was the tape I couldn't find. I was looking for it all morning. I saw it randomly last night, I think on TikTok or Instagram, and then I could not find it because it wasn't the monologue, Andrew. It wasn't Paul McCartney, and there were elements of the show that were on YouTube, not this first thing after the first commercial break, which is, I thought, was the most powerful part of the whole show, maybe for me. He was sitting down, but not at his desk, and he was talking about the show, and he was talking about making a show like this night after night, and he was talking about how they would call this show the Joy Machine. And he got choked up when he was talking about the staff a little bit. That was the only time I noted him getting choked up, which for some reason I was obsessed with figuring out, is he going to cry or not? And I thought that was the part I was trying to find and pull, and I was going to send it to you and go, maybe it's a little serious, but maybe is this the intro tape? But like, I guess for me, and I completely understand where you're coming from, which is like, maybe it was a missed opportunity to just like get a really savage own in on the administration from the person who could do it and had nothing to lose. I also appreciated the joyful nature of things, and maybe it's not an either or. Maybe your point isn't that it had to all be like, we're taking on the Trump administration or we're having a joyful time. Those can both exist in the same moment, I guess. But like, I don't know, I guess maybe for my personal self-preservation, I'm choosing to embrace the joy side of it and just kind of say, like, sometimes maybe feeling joyful and happiness is a form of dissent, because that's so much of what's been taken away from us. And so like him sitting there singing with Elvis Costello and his other buddies, like, you could just tell on his face he was really joyful,
Mm-hmm.
and I liked that too. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
and to be, I just want to restate again. What I'm saying isn't like, oh, he did it wrong or missed opportunity, or like I am happy that I am truly happy that he got to choose the choice, make the choice that he made. You know what I mean? I truly believe that.
Yeah.
There will always be a part of me that just said, man, we left our best weapon in the drawer. Just
Why
am I keeping my weapons in a drawer though?
Well, also, why are you on Blue Sky posting complete self-own by Colbert?
Are you
trying to get clicks?
I was rage baiting.
Colbert biffs it again. And it's
Again,
just
it
you
was
with
the
a green screen behind you. What's going on? What is this content that you're creating? Hey, speaking of swan songs, I was involved in one that was, let's just say, not as nationally noted, but was actually a beautiful moment too, which was Bill Curtis's last night as the announcer on Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me. And it was a very, actually, emotional time there in the Studebaker Theater. I'm not giving anything away to those who are, don't want things, quote unquote, spoiled for this weekend. But it was a really nice time. And, Bill Curtis, when we're at the top of the show, I was wondering, again, because I'm just always clocking, because I feel like I cry on this show too much. I'm always clocking, when do people cry in sad moments or in not even sad moments, in emotional moments in public. And I was like, I wonder how this is going to be for Bill. I mean, he's a legend of broadcast media. He's done so many things. Is he just going to be stentorian and like, is this just another day at the office for him? He's wrapped up other gigs and he's moving on, or is this going to be something that really gets him emotionally? And it was very sweet because after the intro, the first minute of the show, and when we come back, from the news break or whatever, and Bill says, from the Studebaker Theater, I'm Bill Curtis. He said that, and then he paused, and I thought, oh, did he lose his place? And I looked over, and it was because he was just welling up. And when I tell you all of us on the stage were welling up, it was very, very sweet and very and we're just kind of kicking off. And by the way, it was the last time that happened. Everybody was very professional and very, it wasn't like, it didn't usher in a waterworks for the rest of the hour, but it was just like this very sweet moment for a guy who I really admire and really love, and who did an amazing job on that show, and really kind of was an important bridge, because if you remember, it was this guy, Carl Castle, and the whole kind of sort of, the reason the show kind of worked, particularly in the early days, was because you had this very lowbrow, by NPR standards, comedy going on with a very serious, respected, highbrow kind of voice of Carl Castle, and Bill Curtis was the perfect person to kind of jump in and take over when Carl moved on. So it was a really, really sweet night, and I was really glad to get to be part of it.
That's what I was going to ask. I thought it was a little bit weird that you posted on Blue Sky, Carl did it better last night. #
Got to get those clicks.
Roll it back.
Andrew, if you don't have a hot take, why are you even posting? It's like at this point, it's like, do I want engagement or not? And so, yeah. Did I burn some bridges? Yes. Is that my most fire Blue Sky post in terms of engagement? Also, yes. So it's every man for himself out here in this fractured media landscape.
Has there been any public talk about what happens next with that role?
No, and no private talk. I don't know. I have no idea who I know. I don't think it's me. I feel like if it was going to be me, I would have heard about that.
I'm checking my email too, but I'm not seeing anything here. I got an
Do you
email
have your
from
spam
Danny
filter on?
O'Neill, but I think he sends that to a lot of people. I'm checking.
No, I don't.
spam.
It's unclear. We're going to there's a little soiree tonight now, just for people that work on the show, which will be fun. And there's no indication that there's going to be an announcement there either. So I guess, I don't know, maybe we find out next week.
Okay, yeah. You could do that Tobias Funke thing where you're just like, could you find the literal water cooler and just say, a lot of people are talking about this Andrew Walsh guy. I'm sick of hearing about him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could. I'm happy to do that if we can get a water cooler, and if we can get everybody to come in from work from home,
like that, yeah.
And if we can get it back to 3 networks. Then I think that might work. That water cooler campaign might be successful. But anyway, I just wanted to say a salute to Bill Curtis, who's a pretty big legend, and I was pretty lucky to get to work with him.
At the studio, Tobias began to create buzz around the water cooler.
That Funke is some kind of something. Boy, this Funke is all anybody's ever talking about. I'm so sick and tired of hearing about how brilliant that Funke is. Overrated. So we'll just move on. I'm sorry. Okay, we're okay.
We was hoping for some razzle-dazzle.
Razzle-dazzle.
That's right, man. Razzle-dazzle.
On your mark.
mark. On your mark. Get set. Get set. Now ready. Ready. Go. Everybody rattle, dazzle. Everybody rattle.
All right, we've got some dazzling donors to thank. We don't have that big NPR money around here, and we don't even have that big CBS money. And we've got a staff of 3, but we're somehow able to. In fact, the irony, Andrew, is that today, and this sounds slightly cruel, you and John and I have jobs in the broadcast media, and Stephen Colbert doesn't. Now, that's not going to last for long.
Save it for Blue Sky.
But what I'm saying is
Burbank.
we have hit upon a more successful business strategy than Stephen Colbert has.
Which is begging for money, of course.
Yes, which is begging for money and getting some of it thanks to folks like Robert Rowe in Sammamish, Washington. This is 100% listener-supported podcasting, of course. Robert says, last year I ended my message saying that I was already stressing about next year's message.
No.
Well, another year has passed, and I'm happy to report that I have not stressed at all about this message. Huh. What to write about? See, that's the move, Robert. It's like, don't borrow happiness from tomorrow by stressing about, like you're going to have to write this dang message one way or the other. No reason to feel stressed about it for 364 days. Just put it out of your mind and then sit down to write it. That seems to be exactly what happened. He says, I'm reminded of a similar situation in high school when I put off writing a paper until the night before it was due. Then in the 11th hour, I remembered a paper I had written in grade school about NASA's Voyager space probe project. I still had that paper. I pulled it out and tweaked it a bit to bring it up to a high school level. Nice. I assume he recopied it. It was originally in crayon, and he did it in probably ballpoint pen or something.
The K's were backwards.
I pulled it out. I tweaked it a bit to bring it up to a high school level. I added some new facts, and I turned that bad boy in. Having worked once, I recycled that same paper in college. Whatever NASA learned from the Voyager project pales in comparison to the traction I got out of it. Is there a power out to this story? Absolutely not. We've clearly entered the badlands of this donor's message. Love the show.
That's a great story.
Well, and think about this, Andrew. In effect, Robert is recycling the essay once again.
Yeah,
he's not literally presenting the
yeah.
essay, but he's in the talking about the essay is essentially recycling the essay.
Yes. Now I see a PS here.
Yes.
Also that I'm very curious about.
I know, but I'm like, I guess we're gonna have to wait until this this message that Robert is referencing naturally occurs on the show. Robert says, P.S. I hear my sister, who is also a dazzling donor, has a hot take on her favorite Taco Time order. Golly, Andrew, I mean, if I could just click my heels and go right to that hot take, I would, but I guess we'll have to wait until Robert's sister pops up in the rotation, huh?
Well, I'm looking here, so I'm doing some.
Are you able to quickly?
So I have a list
ahead?
of I have a list of all of the dazzling donor messages in front of me, those that we have read and those that we have not read. Now, it is worth noting that not every dazzling donor actually submits a message, but I just on the chance that his sister has the same last name. I did a search on Roe, but I'm not finding anything. I am the only other time Taco Time apparently comes up in dazzling donor messages is from one we read from Diane Marshall back in May that says, I don't care if the topics you guys talking about is cable management or Taco Time, but that's as far as it goes. That's not a hot take necessarily, no offense to Diane. So either this message has not come through. I'm very curious about this because you know me, Luke, I like to just live on the seat of my pants. I would have swapped things around right now on the fly to get Robert's sister in here, but I can't find it.
Robert, please reach out to your sister and ask her what's going on with this because there's nothing I love more. I'm in Chicago, Illinois, Andrew. They've got all kinds of amazing food here, and just the mention of a Taco Time hot take has my mouth watering for Taco Time, which exists 1.5 miles from my house.
Can you get a hot take at Taco Time, and is it basically just a tater tot?
It's a spicy nug. It's a limited time offer.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, my hot take on Taco Time is I don't need any hot takes. I mean, I need them from Robert's sister, but I don't need any menu hot takes. Miss me with anything and everything that I don't care. I am going to order what I am going to order. And that is all. Thank you very much. I don't need any special sweet potato tots, nugs. I don't need the Caesar chicken soft taco, whatever you're doing. Like, I know that like what you got to do with a restaurant, I guess, is you got to throw some new stuff in because there are people who they go to the place and they get tired of eating the same thing. I'm not one of those people.
And you can build commercials around it. You can get people to come that maybe have gotten out of the habit, but it's like, oh, they have this once a year special, or they're trying this new thing. I
feel like some of our friends
do collect those. Yeah, and people like make videos about. You get a bunch of people making TikTok videos about the new flavor blasted Baja Caesar salad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you're right. There's a certain earned media opportunity, and again, we've got friends in our friend group, in Seattle, who like kind of get excited about they've got the new such and such at various places. I'm just such a creature of habit when it comes, particularly to food orders, but to a lot of things, to where I'm just like, I just want to get what I want to get, and please don't ever take it off the menu. And I just have blinders on around the other stuff. So that's my hot take. But I look forward to, at some point, getting to the bottom of this PS from Robert Rose, Dazzling Donor Message. Robert, thank you so much for your support. We really do appreciate you. Maestro?
On your mark. Get set. Get set. Now ready. Ready. Go. Everybody razzle dazzle.
My goodness gracious. It is one of the O-est of G-est of tens. It is our friend Jen Joyce from the world of, making and crafting and knit purling.
And taking me to Pixies concerts. Thank you again,
and
Jen.
So many other things, but also known in the early days as Uber Jen, because that was where Jen worked at the time, and was nice enough to provide us with some advertising money, and by that I mean letting us get rides, which was so much better than advertising money. God, that was a sweet, sweet ride.
It was
Thank you, Jen.
It was an official agreement, right, with TBTL. This was around the time that I was working with you, but it predated me by a little bit. But it was like was it a structured agreement, like an actual advertising agreement, but you were paid in kind of car miles or points or whatever?
I think it might have been open-ended. That's what was so sweet about it. First of all, these were in the earliest days of Uber when they were all black cars.
Yeah, nobody knew what it was. I found out about it through you and TBTL.
And then I think it was just a deal that was, Jen would know, but it was basically like, we'll do some ads, and then if you need a ride, hit them up. And it was fantastic. Anyway, Jen has been a friend of the show in so many different ways for so many years. Jen says, thank you for being so great and always delivering that quality content. I truly love being a 10. I'm currently working on converting my partner, Daniel. We're not fully there yet, but if I'm listening, he'll suddenly look up and say, hey, that's Andrew. Which honestly feels like real progress.
Oh, Daniel.
I just launched my business, a fractional marketing leadership practice. It's called In Good Company. Ooh, that's a solid name. In Good Co, by the way, period. But I just decided to elongate it.
Right.
Jen says, because the best work happens in good company. I help growing companies that aren't ready to hire a full-time experienced marketing leader or have talented junior marketers who could use support by stepping in to lead strategy and big picture thinking. Okay, so that is what a fractional marketing leadership practice looks like. So if you're a company and you could use some highly qualified, professional, creative, problem-solving marketing from somebody who really knows, and that would be our friend Jen Joyce. Have you heard of the company Uber? It's gone pretty well in the marketing of that company. You could hire Jen's company to come in and work for you as needed on these projects. If you need support by stepping into a lead strategy and big picture thinking, you can learn more about me. Some wild ideas I've brought to life. Uber Kittens, anyone?
No, that's right.
That was a biggie. That was where they were Ubering kittens to people, I think.
So, yeah.
I think there was human, chaperones. I don't think they just threw.
You don't think the kittens were driving the cars? I disagree with you.
It could be my memory. And honestly, it was a big swing and a miss, that part of the project. And Jen owns that.
Yes.
Jen owns that miss. Then they figured, no, we should have the kittens get a ride in the Uber.
We let
people.
humans drive the kittens. And that was
Yes.
that was a huge breakthrough.
And that's it. It's about pivoting. It's
Right,
about
right.
failing fast, but learning on the fly. And that's exactly what Jen brings to the table. In fact, the next line is, that's what I bring to the table at alwaysingoodco.com. That's always alwaysingoodco.com. Click on the link. Check out the website. It'll tell you everything you need to know about how you can link up your business or your project with our friend Jen Joyce, one time known as Uber Jen. Also, Jen says, I also share maker stories via my podcast called Making Conversation, and I co-host a free maker meetup in Seattle. It's called Stitch and Poke. You can find out info about both on my Instagram. By the way, Jen is a great follow over at Knit Pearl. Knit, and then Pearl is spelled P-U-R-L. That's a like a crocheting reference, I believe, or a knitting reference.
I thought it was knitting because
it's knitting. It's knitting. It's right there in the name. But then is Pearl? Is that how you spell? That's how you spell that part of the knitting and the purling process, I guess. I always I thought in my mind it was spelled differently, but
like a pearl, like under the
like
sea.
a pearl. But no, it's you're purling. You're P-U-R-L-ing. So it's knit and then P-U-R-L. Jen says, thanks again, business boys, and to the tens. You're the best. So, hey, if you need marketing help, if you're a maker or you're an aspiring maker, hit Jen up at Knit Pearl or over at alwaysingoodco.com. And Jen, thank you so much. You're the best. And Daniel, could we get an occasional, hey, that's Luke?
No, don't worry about that.
That kill you?
Don't worry about that.
Here I go once again with the email. Every week I hope that it's from a female. Oh man, it's not from a female.
All right. I'm sorry that I keep promoting Cars for Kids and not getting to it, but here's the long and the short and the cars and the kids of it. California officials decided that the 1877 Cars for Kids ads were misleading because none of the money from the cars that you were donating to Cars for Kids were going to kids in California, or a very small amount. It was mostly going to summer camps in New Jersey and other projects that in New York that were connecting primarily Jewish kids with their Jewish heritage, and it was doing very little for any kids, be they Jewish or otherwise, in California. And the Cars for Kids people said, we're very clear on our website where the money is going, so we're going to challenge this. But for the time being, they are not allowed to run the ads they've been running because they're seen as misleading.
Which makes sense. I mean, I this isn't getting into judging the organization itself, but when you hear those commercials, which give very little information, it just really sounds like, oh, this goes to help, disadvantaged youth, right? And it's just sort of, it's Cars for Kids. But no, it goes to an organization that has a very different, specific sort of angle, including this might be an outlier, but some of the money also goes to, well, that all goes to this organization. The organization also provides couple resources, and wasn't there even kind of an app or some sort of a meeting, kind of a dating app or something that goes along with
I believe
this,
that was part of it.
service?
It's all
and it's just kind of like, that's all
this.
well and good, but that's not what you think you're supporting when you donate your cars to Cars for Kids.
Anything, well, I don't know. I was going to say anything that means less of that ad playing on the radio, but to be honest with you, it's part of the fabric of listening to local radio and driving around that also is happening less and less. I was been on this whole nostalgia thing around Colbert wrapping up, but it's like there's almost something that's great about terrible commercials on the radio because it means you're listening to the radio. You're listening to AM radio and working in your yard or driving your car or something. And I don't know. Do we think is it a good thing that there are fewer people that are going to have to hear the Cars for Kids ad? Or is there something that's beautifully terrible about it?
Am I the perfect person to ask or the worst person to ask? Because I hear it so often because I'm listening to
could be
that
both.
kind of radio. It is both.
The perfectly worst person.
Oh, goodness. We're so close to the end of the show without a show title, and now I'm writing that down. But I don't know. I mean, there is something I like about well, first of all, it's not local. There's something I like about local advertising, like local AM advertising, and they've just blanketed that. It's a national campaign, which is kind of also at the heart of this lawsuit, I think. And have you heard the newest one, by the way, where the kids start singing and then they kind of record scratch it and they have an updated version of their jingle? It's still the same jingle, but it's just presented differently. Have you heard this?
No, I think the last one I heard was when they went to Hard Rock.
That was awful.
It was when they decided to really shred.
Oh,
That's why,
you're
like-
being serious. They did have a rock. No, they did. Are you being serious or are you being sarcastic? Because they did have
there's a
that
hard rock
shreddy one.
one.
Yeah, and they had like
Yeah.
pink electric guitars and stuff like that in the TV version.
That's the last. That's the last that I was clocking. What
Yeah.
the particular because it started off, of course, very like bink boom, 1877 cars for kids, and then like maybe 10 years ago they switched over to like rocking out cars for kids, and that's when I just said enough is enough. I think you're right,
Absolutely.
though. I think it's good to have less of it because it's not local. If it was one crazy dude in a town who was running this program and decided to have that jingle, I would like it. But the fact that it's this very, very highly sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like structured, a very effective way of extracting free cars from people and then turning that into money for God knows what, and that it's playing everywhere in America. It's like not as cute. It's not as boutique, I guess, as I would like something like this to be.
Yeah. That's why I don't feel like it's a huge loss for the radio listening audience, even if you're a psycho like me who kind of likes bad local ads. Now, do you want to talk briefly about this email that came in? And I totally
sure
forgot.
do.
I tried to squeeze this in at the end of yesterday's show, and then you said, hold off on that, and then I forgot about it. Thank you for reminding me of this. This was an email. The subject line...
The Midwest remembers, Andrew.
The subject line caught my eye immediately. It said, Confessions of a Meta Marketplace Shopper. Now, this was
Do you wanna know something,
inspired
Andrew?
by your issues trying to sell things on places like Facebook Marketplace and Meta Marketplace and whatever the hell they call it these days. Craigslist. But specifically, sort of, Facebook Marketplace has a particularly bad reputation when it comes to people just like saying, I'm interested in this thing, but then they end up ghosting or not being a person.
Yes. I had listed my riding lawnmower, which didn't ride anymore, for sale on there, and I got a very quick bite, and then that person sort of went a bit silent, and I was on the show going like, it's just the weirdest ecosystem because, again, people seem to be very, very interested in something, and they'll be like, I can be there in an hour, and then you just never hear from them any follow-up, and it's like, what happened to the Dufresnes? You know? And then we got this email, and I was about to say that, by the way, I did sell the lawnmower.
Oh, yeah.
And the
that
guy
all went
did,
well, right? And you
did
had a
ask me to
trailer?
take $100 off, and I was glad that I had jacked it by $100.
Yeah.
It all worked out. But it was almost the exact price of buying the new lawnmower that I bought, Andrew, the DeWalt. That's at home.
And it was
when I
new,
get
and you got a
home-
new one. That's nice.
I got a new one. It's still in the box. I got it from Home Depot. And, man, I'm going to
And it's
break that. When I
gas-powered?
get-
You were excited to...
Gas.
Yeah.
Gas prices. It's gas powered, and I am when we fly home tomorrow, I am going to I'm landing, and I am going to jump in my car, and I'm going to speed north and see if I can get that lawn mowed by tomorrow night. I could not be more excited for. That's my big weekend plans. But all I was going to say was when we got this email from the listener, I honestly, because it said Confessions of a Meta Shopper, I thought, is this a PR pitch? Doesn't that subject
sure,
line
yeah,
almost
yeah,
sound
a little bit.
like a PR pitch?
Yeah.
And then I almost tossed it in the dustbin, and then I was like, wait a minute. The opening, because, previews the opening sentence, I was like, no, this is written by a 10. And then I clicked on it, and then I thought, this is a hell of an email.
By the way, after you get done mowing your lawn with your new push mower tomorrow, assuming the weather holds up and it's sunny, will you try twisting a T afterwards?
I might twist a T during. I don't know.
Well, no, you got to earn it. You got to be done.
I do.
This is
And
the
actually, I
Andrew
don't need
Walsh
to
way
be-
of twisting tees. You got to be done with all the yard work.
Yeah.
Maybe you've lit a little fire in the backyard. Maybe you're just sitting on
Well-
the porch afterwards admiring your work, and that is where
Yeah.
you
No,
open
you're
up a
right.
can
And
of this and you pour it over ice in a pint glass, and you sit
I-
back and you just look at your work.
I'll give it a day in court. And by the way, I know we need to get to the email, but that's actually something that was in my mind because I'm not going to lie, I didn't hate having a few small beers and driving the lawnmower.
Oh, okay.
Because I'd listen to my music. I had a whole system. I would listen to my music. I'd have a beer. I'd be coming down from this one part of the yard down to the other yard. The river's there. It's all this whole thing. I'd kind of have this moment that I liked. And part of why I liked the riding mower because that allowed for that, whereas I don't have that same experience. I don't want to be a little buzzed while I'm pushing a mower up a hill. That feels like those are counterpoints or cross purposes. And so I'm going to shift into a mode where the mowing of the lawn will be done in the highest levels of sobriety, but the admiring of the lawn may be a little twisted.
You know, my grandfather cut off his big toe with a push lawn mower. Yeah,
golly.
Yeah, more on that maybe at a later date. I can get more
Sure.
details on that story and regale you with it. But I believe one of my aunts had to put the toe on ice. All right.
They reattached it, though.
No, they didn't, because I remember, I don't think so. I think they tried to.
You
or
need
something
that
like
big
that.
toe. That's a big stability issue.
I know. It all was downhill from there. Catherine wrote, Hey there, Cobros. This is Catherine from Spokane. Somehow still a daily listener from the early Cairo days. What do you mean somehow?
Yeah,
What does that mean?
somehow. Come on.
I felt so seen last week and need to speak up for all of us marketplace
That's why you're still a listener.
ghosters. That's right. All of us marketplace ghosters. Now, hear me out. We're not all bots. It's a lot more psychological than that. I think the majority of us are just dopamine shoppers trying to reinvent our lives one almost purchase at a time. As an attachment-based mental health clinician, I can say with certainty that this is a shameful way of interacting, or this shameful way of interacting online is certainly filling a core need of mine. I'm absolutely the person lying in my bed at 10:47 p.m. sending, quote, "Is this still available?" while half listening to you dummies and simultaneously reinventing my entire life around a used lawnmower for the home I just purchased, or the vintage hutch that might look good in the entry, or the too good to pass up puzzle storage case. It's not entirely my fault. Marketplace knows my every thought and new home decor, or what specific upgrade to my child's bike I'm hoping for, even when I don't know it yet myself. But in that moment when I click send message to sender, I fully believe I'm buying it. I ask for dimensions, location, extra photos, the whole thing. Then the seller replies 8 minutes later, and suddenly I'm no longer in my become the kind of person who owns a used croquet set era, so I quietly disappear into the night. My worst sin, to avoid the shame of the seller ever seeing that I had read their message and chosen not to respond, I usually don't even open up the reply, giving me the meetup time or dimensions I asked for, because I already know I won't ever commit. Marketplace shopping feels like consequence-free because there's no cart, no checkout, no real commitment, just a tiny hits of possibility and fantasy. Anyway, I'm not saying this is right, but it certainly feels good to confess it here. Perhaps a new segment called Monday Confessions. That's a terrible name. I'm sure you can workshop it. But this felt very good to put down on paper, so thank you for the opportunity. And I'm sorry to everyone I've ever asked, is this still available? I can pick it up tomorrow, and then never have spoken to again. Peace and love, power out. And that, again, is from listener Catherine.
There are just so many parts of that email that I feel so connected to, seen by. First of all, I love that Catherine is a mental health professional, but is copping to all of this.
Yeah.
I also, the part about kind of like impulsively reaching out about this product, but then, or thing, and then changing your mind an hour later, and then not wanting to go back and click on the message as if that makes it, the reply, that makes it not exist.
Mm-hmm.
That explains so much of my avoidant behavior on so many levels. It's like avoiding the mailbox, avoiding that email that's been sitting in the inbox, avoiding the repercussions of something that I started but now don't want to deal with or don't want to experience, and not text, not responding to that text message, you name it. Catherine, I'm so with you on that.
So as we wrap up here and head into our weekends, I have a 30-second story to tell you. Actually, I don't even know if I need the whole 30 seconds.
Whoa.
But I'm looking at my email here, and I'm seeing several notes from listeners that reminded me of something that happened to me yesterday. Genevieve got home just a little bit before we had to leave again with Lucy to go to puppy kindergarten, as I mentioned earlier. And Lucy had a new toy in her mouth that I did not recognize. I was like, what's in her mouth? And Genevieve said,
a butt plug.
Oh, no. Did you see that from the listener?
I did.
Yeah, a listener. After hearing my story of Lucy finding and then putting used condoms in her mouth on our walks around this neighborhood, a listener said, I lived in a neighborhood not unlike that. We'd often have things thrown over our fence. And one time it was this. And it was this photo of just the biggest butt plug you could possibly imagine. Anyway,
I can imagine a bigger one. Who knew, by the way, that dogs were such kinky freaks?
Maybe I'm misremembering. It seemed big to me, but I mean, also there's no limit to your imagination.
There isn't, Andrew. That's what we would like to teach the listeners this week. There's no limit to your imagination.
Oh yeah, you know what? I will say that I just opened this email, and in my memory that was much bigger, which means I can also imagine a bigger butt plug.
See,
and
it's working.
Anyway, no, it wasn't a butt plug. It wasn't a sex toy. What do you think was in Lucy's mouth? I will give you a hint. It was something that was given to Genevieve at a work event the day before, and Genevieve works for a university.
It was what's the very university thing? A cap and gown, a plush husky
Think
toy.
less
That would be
about
that interesting.
academics. Think more about the age of people who are on campus.
Oh, okay. Was it
Think about a
Tamagotchi?
story that we told recently on this show based on a New York Times trend piece about something young people are doing again that our generation was very into.
Oh, God! Why can't I remember this? I give me one more hint. Yes, young people they were doing something that we used to do. This was this week we were talking about.
I
this,
think
right?
it might have been Monday. I'm looking at because I think we named the show. It was a rare thing where. Oh, maybe it was last Friday. We named the show after how you slugged the story on the show sheet. It made me laugh. We got to the end of the show. We didn't have an obvious show title. I looked at the show sheet, and this is how you slugged the story.
Oh.
Hacky sack is backy sack.
Oh, yeah.
Which made me laugh. All of that is to say, I just thought it was interesting that I did not know about this phenomenon of hacky sacks being backy back or backy sack, and then Genevieve came home from some work event, and it's like some sort of free swag or whatever you call it. They're giving away hacky sacks. So I would say that you're right. Like hacky sacks.
Did Lucy seem good? Was she doing any kind of impressive foot bagging?
She was like she did this thing where she could pause it on her paw for a second and then toss it to the other one. Now I was a little bit like, well, let's not let her go too far with this thing because she's going to chew it open, and then we're all going to find out what's inside of a hacky sack, and then we're going to find out what's inside of a Lucy. So I wasn't.
Was it one of those? Was it one of those kind of crocheted ones that we talked about versus the leather one?
It was more like a leather one. It looked like a little leather soccer ball, sort of, but I don't think it was like. Listen, this was a free giveaway. I don't think it was a nice leather, whatever you were picturing, but it was more like a leather.
Did she sign up for a credit card and then get a free hacky sack? Because I would say don't do that. I made that mistake on that very campus.
I don't know.
Ago.
She had a new thermal mug too.
Oh, not worth it. Not worth it, girl.
BECU on it. I don't know.
Well, speaking of hacky sacks being backy sack, thanks to whoever gave our guy John Sklaroff.
Oh yeah,
TBTL employee numero uno, a very sweet looking hacky sack at that recent meetup that happened. Back in Minnesota, John went to that meetup and then sent us a photo of a cool hacky sack that was given to him by a 10. That means when we get together for the thon this year, IRL, the three of us, we've got a hacky sack.
We got to do some hacky sacking. I'm looking at some of these emails now. Kelly in Belltown wrote to us to say that she was at Gasworks Park and there was a family there hacky sacking. It is everybody's hacky sacking. This is incredible. Okay, we should get out of here, though. You have Chicago to enjoy. Are you traveling today, or are you enjoying Chicago? Oh, no, you said you have that get-together tonight.
Yeah, there's one more celebration of Mr. Bill Curtis tonight, and then tomorrow we are going to be flying back to the Northwest. So Becca was like, well, do you want to hang out on Saturday after we land? And I was like, well, I have some very important business to attend to. It's called mowing my lawn. It's all I can think about. Yes. It almost feels it's the closest I can come, I think, to identifying with when you sometimes have garbage anxiety, Andrew. All I can think about is how much is my lawn growing?
Yep.
And is it growing to the point where I won't be able to mow it?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's now gone over a week in the real growing season. And am I going to get home and am I going to have to weed whack 1.5 acres to get it down to a manageable level? Like, this is what's going on. This is the low-level vibration in my brain right now. Not Chicago, not all the fun we're having, my lovely girlfriend, wait, don't tell me, TBTL. No, is my lawn going to be a nightmare when I get home?
I get it.
And also, how good is that Twisted Tea going to taste when I survey the freshly mowed lawn with my new lawnmower?
Okay, I don't think they're actually going to do the Twisted tea thing, but if you do, just a little bit of advice from me. Number one, no more than one. It's like it's going to be too sugary for you. It's just it's going to be very sugary, and that is number two. Why you have to have it on ice. Do not drink it directly out of the can. Do not pass go. And then thirdly, if possible, when you're buying it, try to get the Arnold Palmer one, half lemonade, half lemonade. It's gonna that lemonade is going to cut some of the sweet. Yeah, man, like news you can use. I should have my own
for your life from a guy who knows. Thanks for that. All right, that's the plan for my weekend. I hope the rest of you have a wonderful weekend as well. Thank you so much for spending this time with us this week. We're going to be back here on Monday. It's Memorial Day, but we're going to be here. Oh, Andrew, with an update on the Junior Sluggers. And I don't want to give too much away, but I'm going to send you a photo after the show today of the Junior Sluggers.
Oh, great.
And I think it's going to warm your heart even more than a Twisted Tea would. So
find out if we can use that for Monday's show pick. Get permission.
We can and we will.
Okay, good.
I'll ask Coach Ben. Sure. Anyway, we'll see you on Monday, everybody. In the meantime, have a great Memorial Day weekend. Enjoy the weather. Take care of yourselves. Be safe. Go Mariners. And please remember, no mountain too tall.
And good luck to all.
(206-414-TBTL). What awkward story are you ready to tell? 206-414-TBTL. Call up the guys today.
(414-TBTL). 414-TBTL. 414-TBTL. It's in the 206.
Power out.